Hello and welcome back to the latest episode of An American in Thailand, airing every Friday. This program is broadcast to you from Ratchamakan University of Technology, Peranakan, and I will bring it to you in two parts. For the first part, I will introduce a certain topic about being an American living here in Thailand. Could be about food, travel, culture, lifestyle, anything like that. We'll then take a break, and in the second part of the program, we'll get into examples and more specifics of whatever we're talking about. Okay, let's get to the program. Welcome everyone, my name is Gary Gray and I am your host for An American in Thailand. I am an American English teacher here in Thailand, and I have been here teaching at Ratchamakan University of Technology, Peranakan, for the entire time that I have lived here, and I have been here for 9 years. So I've been here quite a while. I have a pretty good feel for Thailand at this point. I'm still learning more every day. Every day I still learn new things. Next week, I'm going to be traveling to a place I've never been to here in Thailand for a university teaching event. So, I will go to a new place next week that I have never been to. I'm going to Nan Province. So I'm always still learning new things here, going new places, experiencing new things. But I do think I've been here long enough now that I can kind of speak on some of the differences between Thailand and the United States. When I say I'm American, I mean from the United States. Some people get a little upset by that because there are other parts of America, but people from the United States don't have another name for themselves. We're not called United Staters or anything like that, so we're Americans. But I am from the United States. So that's what this program's about. Some differences, comparisons. But today we're going to do something, I'm not going to say it's really that different. It's still kind of talking about differences. But it's not really like the culture or the food or the lifestyle or anything like that. We're going to talk about something a little more basic. We're going to talk about the differences between the English and the Thai language. Now, the differences are really unlimited, right? I mean, we don't even use the same characters. I mean, for a native English speaker, or native English writer, in this case, if we're talking about characters, the Thai characters just look crazy to us. Oi, how do you write those characters? All the squiggly lines and everything. And I'm sure probably Thai people think that the English characters are weird too. Maybe not as much as we think the other way, just because English is more common, you've been exposed to them more often, and you have Western character ways of writing words, like you can write them with English letters. I have noticed that because of the sounds, sometimes a certain word can be written in English characters two different ways. People don't always write them the same way. I've even had students who have done that. Their name is, when they sign in for class, their name is spelled, because they write it in English so that I can read it. Even though I've been here a long time, I still don't understand Thai. We're going to talk a little bit about that in here, in today's topic. But I've had some students where they write their name and they spell it differently than what's actually in the registration. You would think it would be spelled the same, because I would assume that student is the person who registered. So they don't even spell their name the same way all the time. And it's because it's not really spelled that way, because you don't really use English characters. You're just using English characters because it's more convenient in some settings, like when you have a English-speaking teacher. You need to write it in English characters, but it's not really done that way. So the differences really are just unlimited. But I'm going to talk about more kind of about speaking. And I'm going to talk about just some really basic differences. Just some of the basic ones. I really only have like 3 on my list here. I guess you could break a couple of them up into 2 different things. But I've kind of grouped them together because they're related. So I mean, you could say I have like 5 different things on here, but I have them listed as 3. So the first one, first one on my list is tones versus syllables. Now, I like to do examples and things like that in the second half of the program, so I'm not going to give too many examples here, but just to understand what I mean. Okay, I think everyone in Thailand knows what I mean by tones, because that's what you use in Thai, in the Thai language. Most Asian languages use tones, where you the word, it either rises, or it can fall, or it can use a level tone. We don't do that in English. I'm not saying that a tone will never rise in a word, but it doesn't change the word. It could change the interpretation of it. For example, if the word is at the end of a sentence and you have a rising tone, it's probably a question. For example, my name is Gary. If you said Gary, you had it with a rising tone, that would be like a question, like you're looking for me, like Gary, where are you? It would be like you're looking for me. Doesn't change the meaning. It's still my name. So the tones don't change the meaning of a word in English. I would say that we don't even really use tones because it's not specific to the word. It's the inflection of the entire sentence. Like at the end of a sentence, we usually go down, like I just did there, down. We usually go down at the end of a sentence. But that doesn't mean that the word down has a downward inflection. No, it just did when I used it that one time because it was at the end of the sentence. So it's really kind of the whole inflection of the sentence. We don't use tones. What we do use is, within the word, an accent. An accent means that part of the word is a little bit stronger or louder. And it will be on one syllable. Now, because you don't do it that way here in Thai, a lot of my Thai students don't even know what a syllable is. What is a syllable? But what's interesting is you do use syllables. You just don't really pay attention to them as much as we do in English, because in English you have to be able to break up those syllables in order to accent one. So let me give you an example. We will use a Thai word. The road which our university is on. It's actually on 2 roads here, but I'll use the one that has the longer name so there's more syllables. It's on Pitsanulok Road, here in Bangkok. Pitsanulok. That has syllables. Pitsanulok. It's each sound in a word is a syllable. When I say each sound, I don't mean individual, like every letter. Every letter pretty much has its own sound. I mean each kind of sound grouping, like pit, su, nu, lok, pitsanulok. 4 syllables. Now in English, one of those syllables is going to be a little bit louder. Now because you're not used to this, a lot of times when Thai people say English words, they will accent the wrong one. Now again, I don't want to get too much into examples yet, but I'll just give you one. Like me, I'm a teacher. A lot of times Thai people will say teacher. Teacher, the accent on the second syllable. That is not correct. The accent in teacher is on the first syllable. Teacher, teacher. So that's something that's different. And because Thai people aren't really used to that, a lot of times they will accent the wrong syllable. And honestly, that is a little bit of a tricky thing in English because there's no magic way to know. There's no way to know. All right. So the second item on the list is different sounds. When you spell out TH in Thailand, it just makes a T sound. When you spell out PH in Thailand, it just makes a P sound. The K, when you're putting Thai words into English lettering, the K is a really weird one. That's actually a sound we don't have in English. It kind of makes a really hard G sound. It's almost like a G and a K combined. It's a really weird sound to try to make for a native English speaker like myself. I've kind of gotten used to it. I can kind of do it correctly, but it's weird. And in English, the PH makes an F sound, and the TH can make two different sounds. Again, we'll get into more examples of that in the second part. I'll talk about that. But neither of them are the same sound as when you're writing it out in English letters in Thailand. So TH, PH make... the PH one I'll give you an example for right now because it's easy. Phone, like the word phone, P-H-O-N-E, phone. The PH makes an F sound. The TH is a little tricky, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit in the second part. I'll give you more examples of that. And the third difference I have here is the use of idioms and slang. Now, because I don't speak Thai, I don't know how much of those are used in Thai. But the way idioms and slang come into being, just culturally, I'm sure every language has them. So I'm sure there are plenty of slang words, plenty of idioms in Thai. Now, an idiom, just in case you don't know that word, that's a saying. It's a phrase or a saying that doesn't mean exactly what the words say. It kind of has a different meaning than what the precise definition of the words would seem to mean. So how is this a difference? Because I'm saying you have them in Thai, we have them in English. I think, and I admit I'm guessing here because I don't speak Thai, but just because I've seen, as a teacher, I've seen lists of English language idioms. Also, the English language has more words than any other language on the planet. There is some debate over that because it depends on what you're considering as a word. For example, if you take the word talk, you have talking, talked, talks. Are those 4 different words or is it just talk? Yeah, so it depends on how you're defining what are words. There are some people who would say, for example, that Arabic has more words than English. So it's debatable whether or not English has more words than any other language. But it has a lot. And so with a lot of words, probably more than we have in Thai. I didn't actually look up relative to Thai, but it probably has more words than Thai. With more words, we have more ways of saying things. And so I'm guessing, just because I've seen like a list of idioms, and it's long in English, I'm guessing we use idioms and slang a lot more in English. So that's the third difference I came up with. Again, there are hundreds of differences. We mentioned like the characters we use. The punctuation. Like I almost never see periods in Thai writing. So how do you know when you're done with one sentence and starting another? Is there another symbol that's in there? That's like the same thing as what a period does? I don't even know because I can't read Thai. I've been here a long time, been here 9 years, but I still can't speak Thai. Nid noi, little tiny bit. I know some words, but I can't speak in complete sentences, and I certainly don't know the characters. So you've also got punctuation. Again, that's more writing. I'm focusing a little bit more on the speaking here, but there are just so many differences. And some of them are really hard. I know, because every time my Thai friends try to get me to say something, it seems like I never say it right. And it's probably because I'm getting the tones wrong, because we don't use tones. All right, so in the second part of our program, like I said, we're going to discuss more examples of these same things. We're going to give some examples of these and talk about the differences. And then I'm just going to give you a little chat as to why we're talking about this and why it's okay that it's difficult. Okay? So, again, part 2, we'll get to some examples. Let's take a quick break. Welcome back, everyone. All right, so we're talking about differences between the Thai and the English language. And as I said in the first part of the program, there are many, endless differences. We're just, excuse me, focusing on a few basic ones, and it's mostly related to speaking. So the first thing we talked about was tones. We talked about tones and syllables. I'm going to split that up a little bit now. Talk about the tones, okay? So let me give you a couple of words, a couple of examples. I wrote down a word, and I meant to put a different word here. But the word, if you spell it out in English, K-A-O. I think, just from what I've seen, that has different meanings depending on the tone. So if you go down, gao. Or you go up, gao. It has two totally different meanings. I could be wrong about that. Like I said, I don't speak Thai. But they would have two different meanings if they both exist. I know at least one exists because I know what it means. But that's one of the few Thai words I do know. My partner also has that name, although that's just his name. But I do know that that's a word. The number 9 is gao. So if both of those both exist, if both of those tones exist, they would be two totally different words. Not in English. We don't do tones. It's the same. We would understand that as the same word. We may ask why you're saying it differently. That seems a little odd. Why does one time you say gao? The next time you say gao? Why do you do that? But to us, it would be the same word. And one of the reasons this can get really tricky is because there are some times where a normal word can turn into a bad word if you say it incorrectly. I will give you a funny example. I won't say the word in Thai. I actually don't even know what it is, so don't worry. So I'm not going to say anything bad, but it's something you can probably figure out. My best friend here in Thailand, he told me that if you ever want to buy a banana from a street vendor, and you have to ask for it, usually you can just pick it up, but if you ever have to ask for it, just ask them for a banana. Just say it in English. Do not try to say it in Thai. Because apparently, if you say it with the wrong tone, it means something completely different, and it's an impolite word. And you will be asking for something which maybe you shouldn't be asking for. So yes, we don't have tones in English. And here in Thai, we get to our next topic, syllables. As I explained with the word pitsanulok, you do have syllables. You just don't pay as much attention to them because they're not as important. They're a little more important in English because we have a syllable accented. And it is tricky because sometimes it's right in the middle of a word, and so there's no way to know that. I'll give you, and so a lot of times Thai people will just put the accent at the end of the word. I gave one example of that in the first part of the program with the word teacher. I'll give another example of that with the word university. Okay, university. U-ni-ver-si-ty. 5 syllables. Which one is accented? Listen closely. University, university, university. It's the third syllable. Third syllable is accented. A lot of Thai people will say university. They'll put the accent on that last syllable. Not only do they make it stronger, but they stretch it out as well. They stretch out that last syllable. It's not how we do it. It's not. In fact, interestingly, which is why I find it almost humorous when I hear Thai people do this, interestingly, we actually very rarely accent the last syllable of a word. I shouldn't say very rarely. When we have 2-syllable words that can both be a noun and a verb, which may seem weird. How can you have a word that's a noun and a verb? Well, it could be the same word has 2 totally different meanings, or they could have a similar meaning that one is noun form, the other is verb form of that similar meaning word. I'll give you an example of a word that has the noun and the verb have nothing to do with each other, and that's O-B-J-E-C-T. Object. Object, that's a thing, like anything is an object. These headphones are an object. This paper is an object. Or it can be object, the verb. That's to go against something. And you'll notice that there we accent the second syllable, object, object. So when it's in the verb form, we accent the second syllable. When it's in the noun form, object, we accent the first syllable. It's usually how we do it. It doesn't work with every single word like that. For example, the word cover can be an action, a verb. When you place a lid on a pot, that is covering the pot. You cover the pot. Or the thing that you're putting on, you can call it, instead of calling it a lid, you can call it a cover. You'll notice I said them both the same way that time. Yeah, that word for some reason doesn't follow that rule. But anyway, I talk about all of that because I said it's very rare that we accent the last syllable in a word. There are quite a few of those kind of noun-verb words. So there's quite a few of those words that get that verb form will have the last syllable accented. So I don't want to make it sound like it's that rare. But it's quite uncommon to accent the last syllable in a word, which is why I find it a little bit humorous that Thai people love to do that when they're saying English words. Put that emphasis on the last syllable. It's like, no. If you're going to put it anywhere, don't put it on the last syllable, because that's probably not where it goes. So that's interesting. So that's kind of a difference with English and Thai as well, is the syllables and the accenting. Again, it's not that you don't have syllables here. Every word can be broken down into syllables. And if it's a really short word with only one syllable, well, that's still a syllable. It has one syllable. For example, I use the word gao. Yeah, that's still a syllable. It's just a one-syllable word. My name, Gary. Okay, but my name's English, so of course I have syllables. Gary, 2 syllables. Doesn't matter. I have let me think of one of my students' names. How about Kitisak? Kitisak, 3 syllables. Okay. Something else I'll point out about syllables, I did not even put this in my notes, but I think it's important, is that in a lot of Asian languages, they do not like to have what are called consonant clusters. A consonant is every letter except A, E, I, O, U. So every other letter, B, C, D, F, G, every other letter other than A, E, I, O, U. And a cluster just means a group. So in Thai, they don't like to put those letters together. Now, when I say they don't like to put them together, I mean within the same sound. So it's okay if they're separated by a syllable. Let's look at the word pitsanulok, like we used before. Okay, the PH, that doesn't count. That's just one sound, right? But then the TS are together. Yeah, yes, but it's pit, sa, two separate syllables. You don't do that very often in Thai. There's a few times where you'll see it. I'm honestly, off the top of my head, since I didn't put this in my notes, I'm having trouble even thinking of it. But I think it's KL and KR. Yes, like KR. Like also another name that I have for a lot of my students, like Kritsana. KR. That's in one sound. Crit. But the TS is not. It's crit, sa, na. So you have the KR together. So we do occasionally see a consonant cluster. The K and the R are both consonants. A cluster is a group. That's consonants together. But we don't often see it. It's very uncommon. Whereas in English, it's very common. So what happens with a lot of Thai native Thai speakers is they have trouble with that. For example, the word school. And that's a basic enough word that a Thai English learner will learn that early enough that they can say that pretty well. But if you talk to like a really little kid who's just starting to learn English, a lot of times they'll say sakul. They'll say sakul. I must go to sakul and study. They're putting that sound in there. That's to break up the S and the K sound. The CH kind of makes a K sound, right? It's k. So sk. So they're trying to break that up. That's something that a lot of Thai native speakers, when they're speaking English, will do. They'll break up those consonant clusters. Or sometimes they'll just drop one. Like the word like the word, sorry, I was going to give you the first word. That's not the one. Like the word CENTRAL. Very common word here in Thailand, even though it's an English word. CENTRAL. They'll say Santan. Okay, you're changing the last letter, the L, into an N. That one's a different thing. We're not even going to talk about that one today because that's a little weird. That's a little weird and tricky to explain. But you are accenting the wrong syllable. It's sen, so you have this whole accent thing again. But what I want to talk about there is the NTR, consonant cluster. But you'll notice they can pronounce the N and the T without a problem. Sentan. But the R disappears. The N and the T are in separate syllables. Sen. Troll. The TR are together in the second syllable. So that's another thing that sometimes Thai people will do. They'll drop the second letter in the consonant cluster. It's usually the second letter. I've sometimes seen them drop the first one in certain words, but usually it's the second letter. It's the last one. They drop it, so the R just disappears there. So that's another difference, is these consonant clusters. They are very uncommon in Thai. You see them with a few combinations. KR, KL. You'll see that sometimes. But very uncommon. In English, they're very common. And so they create a difficulty for Thai people trying to speak English. Okay, so the other thing I mentioned is different sounds. I mentioned in the first half how the K sounds like a hard G, like when you write something in English characters. The K sound for you is different than the C sound. In English, we would read that the same. For example, when you write out the word for rice, C-A-O. To a native English speaker, when we see that written out, C-A-O, K-A-O. It's the same thing. They're both cow. No. K-A-O is pronounced here in Thailand, Gao. Very similar. Have to listen. but definitely a difference. Cow, gal. It's a much harder, it's like a hard G. It's like a G and a C all kind of put together there. A really hard G. So that's one difference. There's another difference in, like, I mentioned that TH has a different sound in English, but it has two different sounds in English, which is really weird, right? It can be one of two things. It can be a soft th, like think, thank, thousand, or it can be a hard th, like these, those, there, them, that. Okay, what's important to understand is it's really kind of the same sound, because I don't want you to get too confused by that. It's really the same sound. Both of them, you're just blowing air through your teeth, basically, with your tongue stuck out. The only difference is, with the harder sound, you're using your voice to make the sound. The soft TH sound, it's just air. That's all it is, air. Not using my voice at all. Is using my voice. In fact, if you put your hand here and try that yourself, you will feel your voice box vibrating when you do that. And we actually call it that. That's actually what it's called. It's voiced. Is voiced. Is not voiced. The prefix un means not, so we say unvoiced. So is unvoiced. Is voiced. We have the same thing with S. The letter S sometimes. Sometimes we will pronounce it like a Z. Z, z, z. All that is a voiced form of s, s. Your teeth and tongue are in the same place. One uses the voice, one doesn't. And the word USE, that short little word, easy word, has two different meanings, depending on whether you voice it or unvoice it. Use. Use is a noun. You think of a noun as being a thing. It's kind of more of a descriptive noun, like you're asking what you do with that thing. What is its use? Use is what you do with it. How do you use it? Use is the verb. What is the actual action? A verb is an action. What's the actual action that you do with it? They're both spelled U-S-E. Only difference is voiced, unvoiced. So don't get confused by those two different sounds that a TH can make and the two different sounds that an S can make. The teeth, the tongue are all in the same place. It's the same thing. One just uses a little bit of voice to it. That's all. All right, and then we talked about slang and idioms. These are our last two topics. All right, so with slang, it's just a word that means something different than the way it's used. Like the word cool. I think everyone knows what that means. It means something that's really great. The only weird thing is that sometimes we use it the opposite, which can be really confusing. Like if someone says, that song is really bad. If they say it that way, they probably mean that song was really good. The word wicked means evil. Where I come from, my area of the U.S., we use that term a lot more. And it means very, like wicked bad, wicked awesome. It just sounds funny to me because I know only my part of the U.S. uses it that way. But you can also use it kind of similar to bad. Like if you said, oh man, that was wicked. Yeah, it probably means good. So, yeah, slang is when you're using words that don't mean what the actual dictionary definition of the word is. And an idiom is kind of the same thing, except it's a saying. It's a whole saying. Like if we say it's raining cats and dogs. Obviously, there are not cats and dogs falling from the sky. That would be a bad thing. That just means it's heavy rain. Some of the idioms, though, can be really interesting. I'm going to give you two that are really interesting. Not the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree, and not the sharpest tool in the shed. Mean the same thing. A person's not very smart. But what I find interesting about them is sharp and bright. They have different meanings. You think of sharp like a knife, right? Sharp, like cuts things. Sharp can also mean smart. Usually quick with your smarts. Bright. Same thing. It doesn't just mean a strong light. It can mean smart. So what's interesting about those idioms is they're kind of using a twist on the words there. Sharp and bright. Not the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree. Not the sharpest tool in the shed. It's kind of cute the way they're using that. Raining cats and dogs. No. Cats and dogs have nothing to do with rain. That's... I don't even know where that came from. I'd have to look up the history of that idiom, because that's a weird one. So we have hundreds of idioms in English. And so that's why that's a difference. I don't think it's different that... wherein... I don't think we can say that Thai doesn't have idioms. Since I don't speak Thai, I don't know. But I'm guessing they do. I think almost every language has their own idioms, has their own slang, because that's just kind of normal to have. That's a normal language development. I just think they don't have as many, because English just has more words. All right, so there are lots of differences, and that can make it hard to speak with one another. And it can also make it hard for one person who's native to one of those languages speak the other. I've been here 9 years. I can't speak Thai. Now, I will grant you that I have not tried a lot, but part of that is just because of that frustration. I mentioned earlier in the show, every time I try to speak Thai to my Thai friends, they're like, oh, just forget it. We just did a recording for our university. They wanted me to say this short little phrase in Thai. I said it. Like, forget it. Just speak English. Don't even bother. Don't try. So if you're trying to speak English, which if you're listening to this program, since it's broadcasting in Thailand, and it's in English language, I'm guessing you are. If you're trying to speak English, just take it slowly. It's okay. Most native English speakers, like me, do not speak a second language. Some people think we're just lazy and stupid. In our defense, we mostly don't need to. Weirdly, most native English-speaking places don't border other countries with other languages. I know, that's weird, right? Think about it. Great Britain, Ireland, both islands. Australia, island. New Zealand, island. Canada has one border with the U.S., which speaks English. The U.S. has two borders, one of them with Canada, of course, I just mentioned. Now, we do have a border in the U.S. with Mexico, where they speak Spanish. So there's that one. But that's it. I've named every native English-speaking country. There are some that do have English as an official language, but it's still not considered the native language. For example, Nigeria. They do use English as an official language. It's not their native language, so there is a difference between official and native. So those are all the countries with native languages. With English as a native language, excuse me. And one country has one border with another country that speaks another language. That's it. So in our defense, I think that's why we don't speak other languages. You could still say that that's lazy, I guess. Fine. Okay, we're lazy. But my point is, we can't speak your language. Very few of us can. Whatever your language might be. If someone from Spain were watching this program, most of us can't speak Spanish. That is one of the more common ones that we can speak. I took 4 years of Spanish. I can speak a little Spanish. I'm still not very good even after taking 4 years. I should be a lot better at it. But some of us can speak Spanish, and French is also pretty common. But mostly we cannot speak your language. And so we are very pleased and thankful when you try to speak our language. So don't worry about making mistakes. If you're trying to speak English, good for you. Keep it up. Take it slowly. Don't worry about mistakes. I will also tell you what you should focus on. Grammar errors usually don't confuse our understanding of what you're saying, Maybe occasionally you use the wrong verb tense, so we think you already did something when you're currently doing it, or you haven't done it yet. Okay, we get a little confusion there. But generally speaking, your grammar mistakes, we don't care. We don't care. There's plenty of native English speakers who don't speak English very well. Believe me, I know. I see it all the time on like social media. Our own president recently said, a lot of people don't know that the word dumb ends in a B. Really? It's a 4-letter word that people learn in elementary school. Everyone knows that the word dumb is spelled D-U-M-B. Yes, the B is silent. I understand that. But our own president thinks it's surprising to learn that the word dumb has a B at the end of it. Oy. Don't worry about mistakes. We have plenty of native English speakers who aren't very good at English, including our own president. The most important thing I would tell you is vocabulary and pronunciation. If we don't understand the actual words that you're speaking, that can become a problem. So focus on your vocabulary and your pronunciation. That's the most helpful thing you can do to help yourself with learning English. If you don't know the words, you can't say it. So you need to know the vocabulary. And if you can't say it right, we may not know what you're saying. So pronunciation's important. The grammar, you can work on that as you go along. Take your time with the grammar. I'm not going to say it's not important. Sometimes if you use bad grammar, you don't sound very smart. So you should try to get your grammar correct. But that's kind of the second or third priority. I guess third, because vocabulary and pronunciation are two different things. So vocabulary, first priority, pronunciation, second priority, then worry about your grammar. All right? So that's our episode on differences in our languages. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of An American in Thailand. Any young people out there who are looking to head off to university here in the next year or so, please consider our university here, RMUTP, Ratchamakon, University of Technology, Peranakan. And if you're studying English, who knows, maybe I'll be your teacher. All right, please stay with us and tune back in next week for another interesting episode. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.